Well, if some of y'all were earlier around today when Alex gave his talk, this is totally going to be the same talk. I'm just kidding. What we're going to do here, we just, wait, was it just you for the last talk? Any other Zers? No? Okay, well, Alex gave a great intro on this concept of Web3 citizens, essentially who we represent as, not just Zerion's core users, but DAO's core audience, like folks who are active in the space, engaging with protocols, doing a lot of on-chain actions. Today, I'm just going to talk a little bit more on just expanding on that concept of Web3 citizens, but a little bit on how we as a wallet at Zerion, as well as other DApps in the ecosystem, should approach thinking about the features they're building, thinking about the communities they're building, and just thinking about the infrastructure that we need to get to where we want to go as an interoperable sort of ecosystem. My name is Abi. I wear a lot of hats at Zerion, but more recently I've been leading the API. So just for context, we're a smart wallet that helps you, sort of abstract the complexities of Web3 and ditch, wallets like MetaMask and enter sort of this new foray of being able to just understand all of your on-chain activity and sort of do anything that you'd expect a Web3 wallet to do. But under the hood, we also have an API, a REST API, that other wallets like Uniswap, Rainbow, and some other providers that you all are familiar with, including Bello, they use our API to sort of track their wallets, calculate their portfolios, show their transactions and whatnot. So I'll also sort of reveal a little bit of alpha there. We love to seek alpha at Zerion. So to get started, doesn't go to the next slide. That's weird. Well, there we go. Oh, that works. Well, remember DeFi Summer? Well, for some of y'all who've been here since then, we kind of essentially went in a single market from this, Cambrian explosion of DeFi protocols first. With MakerDAO and Compound's governance token, we had a whole new set of problems where initially at Zerion, we realized that using spreadsheets were super complicated. So you needed a simple portfolio tracker. Next, we went to this whole proliferation of exchanges, right? So suddenly you had every new centralized exchange pop up, grow a lot in the last cycle. And with that, you had a new set of challenges where, with hacks and with, other issues around regulation, the issue of self-custody became more important. I think today we're in this sort of phase of seeing this Cambrian explosion of DApps. So essentially, you're having a lot of infrastructure, like Reka said in her previous talk, that's finally hitting a stage where you have the sort of right blend of tooling, user experience, and actual users who want to sort of get past that initial barrier and try to understand and use some of these products in their day-to-day lives. And we have a lot of examples here, right? From DAOs to platforms like Lens to every other primitive in this space. So in a nutshell, Web3 has evolved a lot since then. And I love this image. It was from one of the articles that Gabby Goldberg shared on wallets. And it really just encompasses how, now in this transition, a lot of what we'd taken for granted in the Web 2 world, we can really now sort of identify within your wallet as this sort of main, point of action. And some examples are, not just with your funds, but also with, the people you interact with, the games you have, the, transactions you make in the space. So in a nutshell, this concept of identity, I think it's being both sort of broken down into its subsequent parts, but also your wallet could really represent your identity in the space as it evolves and beyond the space as well, as you bring in more sort of plugins of data into the Web3 space. And some stats to really back kind of what this transition represents, right? We're seeing that most Zerion users, they connect 2 to 5 wallets on average. This shows that you're not just having one wallet for your primary use case. There's nothing new in this data point, but you're also now watching more wallets. You're tracking activities of celebrities and other sort of on-chain collectors that you admire. Or you just have one wallet that's your burner wallet, one wallet that might be your sort of long-term storage wallet that you don't want to touch. This is a stat that we all know of. A stat that's, I guess, a little bit less apparent is also how often Zerion's apps and a lot of the other on-chain apps, I probably open my Lens and my Orb app 50 times a day. I'm purely a lurker on there, but even just as a lurker, similar to Twitter, I think my on-chain activity there is probably going to increase a lot more in the near future. So the trend is showing that this activity is not going to slow down, and it's one of those things where DApps have actual product market fit. increasingly compared to, say, protocols or compared to even DAOs in a lot of ways. So what's the unspoken truth here? It's really just that beyond the apps themselves, the user archetype as well has changed quite significantly over the last couple years. I found this slide from a couple ETCs back that I think one of our colleagues had made, where as you see, like some things to point out here in the user personas we had back then, they're super focused on the finance. They're super focused on here's a wallet balance that a user might have, and this is how we segregate them across their categories. Or they're super focused on, hey, like, what's their average trade size? Do they use these like quote unquote advanced features? And what I realized when looking at this was that this really is the archetype of a degenerate gambler or a degen, as we see in this space, more than a quote unquote Web3 citizen that we call. And I guess more recently, Alex here made this brilliant analogy to the Lord of the Rings, where we kind of redid this to understand, okay, what do Web3 citizens look like today for us? Without explaining more on Web3 citizens, really just across multiple characters. These are, for example, the Aragorn folks, right? Like the builders in this space, people who are influencers, people who are using multiple protocols. They could be like Boromir, where these are the degens as well, but they're still seeking alpha, and they're using multiple protocols in a quest to like either make money or to like generate outsized returns. Or they're the category where they're more or less users, enthusiasts, people who are maybe farming points on Guild, on multiple other platforms just to like get clout or get a better Discord role. These could all be categories where this looks very different from this, where as a product as a whole, I think we're very much focused on how do we sort of build more for the active users who are contributing not just value monetarily, but also building the space as we know it. So a little bit on kind of what these Web3 citizens need as a tool. I think the nutshell is that it's not just all food tokens or JPEGs or sort of like stuff that's normal in a bull market. This tweet from Jay from A16Z really just showed that the identity point that I mentioned earlier, wallets in the future, they really represent not just what's your inventory of assets, what's your spreadsheet of NFTs and tokens, but they more or less should make this both composable across multiple things you use, and also they should have almost like a representation of you and your actions across the space in a very shareable format. And Gabby also sort of mentioned this very clearly in her space, where there's almost this explosion of new wallets coming in. We see that as many wallets approach us for the API, building for many different verticalized use cases. So you could almost have a niche wallet for NFTs. You could have a niche wallet for DAOs. There's many such examples already. And I think this transition is already happening, and we're seeing this accelerating. So to sort of like now show what products and features we've been thinking of building to sort of help sort of this transition from, hey, we're in this static wallet world to this dynamic world where you can operate across multiple dApps in a very easy way. The first example here that I have is really just more around how can you make wallets more interoperable. So as you have more wallets, here's an example of a feature that we've released with our browser extension, right? Where this feature really states to solve one problem where, say you had a MetaMask wallet and you have, a browser extension of Zerion and you have a Phantom wallet, and you just like to use different wallets across different dApps. Previously, this would be a very tough challenge where, the MetaMask pop-up comes up, you're like super annoyed with that, you want to uninstall it, or you want to use a different browser for each wallet. A feature where you could just, pause a certain extension from conflicting with your access to a dApp for a certain time frame, for any specific reason you have. I think this is one of those access features that we've released that really solves that key problem. There's another one where this is more around the wallet injection. So we worked with Wallet Connect, for example, on this new EIP 6963, where the simple proposal is that if before you had this problem where MetaMask might hijack like Zerion's wallet within a login modal, or you have other challenges with like wallet logins, we'd be able to like kind of have multiple wallets work, and Zerion's wallet would also work across multiple chains in a very seamless way. I think these are the kind of examples of features that we're trying to focus on and really build for, where your user experience should be very seamless, even across multiple wallets. And I think that trend will only continue. And the other feature that we have related to wallets, I guess that would be interesting. This is what I talked about earlier on the API, right? We also see that as more wallets come across, like your user balances across multiple wallets might not even be the same. So if you have a wallet that you have in Coinbase, and you have a wallet in MetaMask and in Zerion, and you have a lot of degen farms, you have liquidity pools, staked assets across multiple chains, the amount tracked across different wallets might look very different, right? So for us, this started off more as an experiment where a couple wallets approached us, wallets like Rainbow, asking, hey, like y'all have a cool transaction history. Would we be able to integrate that into our platform or somehow fetch that data from Zerion and build on top? So for us, I think with our Zerion API stack, this has been another area where we want to increase the GDP of other wallets overall in this space. And this serves us also with really good feedback, high quality, I guess, collusion and competition in a way, which is really healthy for the space in any sector. So this has been another thing where, if anyone's looking to build, say like, a wallet's net worth tracker, which Bello used us for example, because that data is not very seamless to integrate yourself, and it's not the same across multiple wallets, the wallet which has the most coverage will eventually converge to being like the de facto data provider in the space. So that's been a sort of like another area where we've worked on to increase the GDP of wallets. And this is something where I think Alex phrased it as exploring first, finance second earlier today. I just added it into another sort of extra area where I added browsing there, just because we're focusing on DApps. So for this feature around moving from, hey, like finance is the core of the app, to browsers, and to more of like this all-in-one, how you use Google or how you use now ChatGPT. We're having some features here that are in the pipeline where you'll now be able to add support for like custom networks, for example. You'd have more advanced spam filtering for your assets. So your NFT history right now, a lot of your wallets are rendered kind of useless if there's a lot of spam, if there's a lot of activities that's shown that you don't want to be seen, and you want to only filter for valuable activity, anything that's above certain dollars, for example. Adding features like that. And then there's some more security-related features. We also realized that in terms of security, no wallet right now is really sort of bridged that gap between, hey, I can just confidently connect this wallet to any website, be it a phishing website, and be rest assured that I'm not going to have my wallet stolen. So having transaction filtering, screening for DApps across the ecosystem, and understanding what would actually give you the most secure wallet, I think that's another area that we're focusing on as well very heavily as a product. And finally, this is more around more advanced features for traders, like MEV protection for signed transactions. Those are all in the roadmap where this will really help us go from this very much finance-driven wallet to this whole browser wallet where you could log into this as you log into your Discord, as you log into your Slack for work for the day, but through your sort of on-chain exploratory journey. And finally, I just wanted to showcase a little bit on, I guess, how this blends together with community and growth, because that is really important, I guess, as a wallet, to separate yourself from a very, very static wallet that really doesn't interact or listen to your community and use your features along with them. I think a lot of this work has been what we call on-chain marketing with our growth team internally. But some examples here, we had the Zerion DNA, where the Zerion DNA is your on-chain representation of a wallet. And with recent sort of activities we've been doing, this has gone from a cool PFP to this alpha pass of sorts. So essentially, with platforms like Lens or with platforms like Disco and whatnot, we've been able to be early partners in either launching our extension to their community or getting access to our DNA holders ahead of a lot of other communities. So this gives you more utility as a wallet than if you were just using a wallet purely as a checking account of sorts. So that's an example where we've sort of made it a priority internally as well, along with the product, to also really just set our position as an on-chain sort of wallet that's active with the community. And I think in this regards, a lot of other tools are following this bandwagon of, hey, we want to build exclusive communities that also go beyond what your interactions are within the DApp, but also sort of feed into crypto Twitter, into Discord, into your actual Web3 social area. We've done similarly on-chain marketing with Mirror, with Galaxy, and really just making sure we have more community ambassadors and Zerion sort of DNA holders taking the front picture here in terms of how they build this. And finally, I guess, where do DAOs fit into all of this? To wrap things up, like we had one of our partnerships lead, Buga, create this amazing show called Man of Crypto, and he just goes around the world trying to see how penetrated crypto actually is into like day-to-day actions. And the big learning from this is, even something as simple as creating a crypto wallet or getting your first Ethereum is really hard. And I think the same way for DAOs and for a lot of communities now, they're gated maybe for the right reason, or at the core, they're really just a Discord with a token, right? But I feel like the sort of what's needed is more tooling, more dApps, and more of this browser-style experience where anyone's really able to contribute and build at their own schedule, at their own sort of knowledge level. And I think this is where we're sort of heading towards. But this show also really recommend just to understand more of like what's the actual state of adoption right now, and where do we as a crypto community need to think outside of the box and understand like the priorities in the space. Yeah, thanks so much. Open for questions.